Well, good morning. He is risen. Indeed. We can do a little better than that, can't we? He is risen. He is risen indeed. The greatest mystery in the history of creation. God breathes life into a new world. And in an instant, everything that we have known has been changed and transformed. The greatest mystery. See, the power of the cross is in an empty tomb. And what's fascinating, when we think about things that are empty, typically it is a bad thing. If you wake up and you go online, you look and your bank account is empty, it is a bad thing. If you are sitting here this morning and your stomach is empty, maybe it's a bad thing. If your gas tank light comes on and says it is empty, it is a bad thing. But here in the emptiness of a tomb, we find God's great power on display. We find God at work in our world, transforming what we know and what we see. And the problem for us, or at least me, and probably for you as well, is we don't feel empty most of the time. We live in a world, in a country where we feel like we have everything that we need. Have you ever had a Christmas or a birthday where you're trying to buy something for someone who had everything? So I decided to help you out a little bit this morning. I found a gift-giving guide for you to come up with a gift for the person who has everything. So you can get them a portable, rechargeable hand warmer. Okay? Or a state spoon rest to show them you care. Or a Himalayan salt block. Or a Lululemon Everywhere belt bag. It's a fanny pack. A name brand fanny pack. Or a crab utensil rest. Has anyone just said, "Oh, I want one of those"? Like, yeah. Okay. Or microwavable slippers. First your Hot Pocket, then the slippers. Or a Heart of Hope lavender warming pillow that looks like my 9-year-old stitched it together and cut it out. There are some great gifts. Or one more. You remember the popcorn you get every Christmas from someone that you never eat and you throw away in July? You can get them a new flavor every single month just for it's the gift that keeps giving all year round, Clark. Right? It's difficult to buy something to give to someone who has everything. And for me, one of the biggest things I struggle with is Jesus comes along and says, "I have life to give you." And I look at my life and I think, well, I don't know that I need that much. If I don't have it, I can go buy it. Right? We go on a trip or vacation and it's like, well, do we have everything? And now it doesn't really matter because it's like, well, there's somewhere we can go get whatever we need wherever we are. And it's difficult for us to feel like we need something when we feel like we have everything we need. But my question for you is, if we have everything we need, why do we wake up day after day searching for more? Why do we wake up every single day thinking there are things that we still don't have? There are still things that we need. Here in the midst of this most powerful story of the resurrection of Jesus, Jesus asked a question of Mary. And my assumption is he is asking that question to you and I as well. So in John chapter 20, at this, she, being Mary, turned around and saw Jesus standing there. But she did not realize that it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" And that's the question I want to ask you this morning. Who or what is it that you are looking for? Who or what are you trying to find? Maybe trying to find yourself. Maybe you're looking for fulfillment. Maybe looking for identity. Maybe looking for friendship. Maybe looking for purpose. Maybe looking for comfort. Maybe looking for a spouse. Maybe looking for belonging. Maybe looking for safety. Because our assumption is if we find it, then we will be complete. If we find the thing that we're looking for, then we will have enough. If we find that thing we're looking for, then we will be satisfied. But as Mary goes to the tomb looking for Jesus, searching for what she does not think she has any longer, we see this story unfold. And for me, the way John tells the story is rather comical. He says this: early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, right? Here's his little name for himself, the one Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." So Peter and the other disciple, the one that Jesus loved, started for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciple, the one that Jesus loved, outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent over, looked inside at the strips of linen lying there, but did not go in. Then Simon Peter came along behind him and went straight into the tomb, and he saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. The cloth was still lying in its place, separate from the linen. Finally, the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, who reached the tomb first, went inside. He saw and believed. See, they still did not understand from Scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead. And the reason I say this story is comical because I think it reveals some of our pettiness. Right? This is the most monumental moment in the history of creation. And above everything else, John wants you to know that he runs faster than Peter. I need you to know this. Jesus, the tomb was empty, and I'm faster than this old man Peter. And I have more faith than Peter because I saw it and I believed. Right? You see the pettiness of this monumental moment. Anyone else here competitive? So this week I lost a contest that I didn't know I was in. and I was really angry about it. So I go work out every morning at Rise. I go to a 5:30 class, and they track our attendance. And I didn't really know this. And so our trainer sent out a group text this week that had the number of classes over the month of March that everyone had been to. And I had been to every class available except for one day where we went to Frisco and watched Gracie in powerlifting. And so I missed that day. And one of the guys in our class named Jose had 18 check-ins, and I had 17. And he sent that on Thursday. And I was so angry that I got beat that I replied, well, I'm coming twice tomorrow. Because it was one of those, I don't like to lose. And I want people to see and be impressed with me. I ran the Fresh 15 this year. And it's the first time I've run it in a long time. And I was talking to a mentor on the phone, and he said, well, how's it going and all of this? And I said, well, I'm kind of disappointed. I've been training, and I'm probably not going to be that fast this year. I'm probably about 10 minutes slower than the last time I ran it 4 or 5 years ago. And so I'm not real excited about doing it. And he just said, do you think anyone cares how fast you ran a 15K? Like, they might pat you on the back, that's cool that you ran it, but they don't care. And he asked, what do you want? What do you need from me? Do you want me to pat you on the back and say, hey, I'm really proud of you. Good job. And I thought for a second, like, yeah, I think so. Kinda. Because what was I looking for? That affirmation. I was looking for someone to say, hey, good job. I was wanting someone to say, hey, you're still Superman. Never really was, but we long for that. We long for people to notice. And here, somehow John manages to make this story, right, the most significant story in human history. And somehow he manages to make it about him. The tomb is empty, and I'm faster than Peter. The tomb is empty, and I can still outrun him. And if you think about it, it sounds kind of like third grade recess, doesn't it? And if we're really honest, there's probably a lot of our life that sounds about the same, where the pettiness comes out. Because somehow we're trying to make God's story about us. Maybe the most significant shift in our life could come when we decide that this is not our story. This is God's story. And this is all about Him. In Luke's account, the angel asked this question: why are you looking for the living among the dead? And maybe the same thing could be said to you and I. Why is it that you're looking for the living among the dead? What's fascinating in Luke's story, as well as the other stories, is they weren't really looking for the living among the dead. They were looking for the dead among the dead. They weren't expecting to find the body of a dead person, and instead they encounter an empty tomb. There are so many places in our life that we run trying to find life. And yet what we find at the end of that road is death. We find what decays. We find what does not last. we find what does not fulfill. After we've run and we've run, and the disciples and Mary, they run and they find life, and it's right in front of them, and they don't recognize it. They don't realize what has just happened. And so Jesus asks that question, then he says, "Who is it that you're looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you had carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Right? This monumental moment. And Jesus is standing right in front of her. And he does not realize that it's Jesus. And Jesus says, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." John's famous line, thinking he was the gardener. Is there another garden in Scripture that you can think of anywhere? Genesis. It's where this whole creation project went off the rails, where we went searching for the things that we did not have, the things we could not have, the things we wanted and we thought would fulfill us. And John, his little line that he slides in is thinking he was the gardener, which is John's way of saying conquering death, reclaiming the garden. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. And here, in an empty tomb, we find life. Here in the emptiness of a tomb, we find life. And it's only in the garden that a tomb can become a womb. A womb that births new life into the world. A womb that brings a new creation. A womb that offers life and hope beyond anything else that we can find. Yet we search every single day to find life in creation rather than the Creator. You see, we think the fear and the anxiety and the pain and the hurt and the brokenness is all just a part of God's world. But that is not the world that He created. That is the world that you and I have created. A world that is decaying and a world that is falling apart. And here in this moment, Jesus takes the consequences of sin, the worst sin can do, upon Himself. And He pays the price that He did not deserve. He goes punished. Now, my guess is you are like me and you have been punished for things that you have done, and you have probably gotten off for things that you have done. Cringe for just a moment this morning. But when I was in 10th grade, hey, Mom. When I was in 10th grade, and I think I've told this, it's been a long time, I think, but when I was in 10th grade, I was in a chemistry class, and the guy's name was Mr. Spear, my teacher. And there was a girl who was sitting in front of me named Amanda, and all of my friends were sitting around, and we wanted to impress Amanda. And someone had a rubber cork that goes like in a test tube or whatever those are called. Doug, is that? Yeah, rubber cork. And one of my friends puts it on my desk and goes, "I dare you to throw this." And so, of course, I wanted to impress Amanda. And so I grabbed the cork and I tossed it up on the teacher's desk as he was standing there. And I wasn't expecting anything bad, but when you throw something rubber that's like a ball, it does what? Bounces, yeah. And it bounced up and it hit him square in the face. And he got so angry. And I was just sitting there with my head down like, oh no, I'm in so much trouble. I didn't expect that. And after class, this goody two-shoes person, I don't know who it was, went up and told Mr. Spear, Gary's the one that threw it. And so I came back to class the next week, whenever the next time, and I walk up to the door, and Mr. Spear is standing right outside the door with his arms crossed, and he goes, "So, I hear you're a pitcher." And I was like, "No, I actually play third base." He goes, "No, I heard you threw a cork at me." Oh, my goodness. And so I told Mr. Spear, I was like, "I don't feel good. I need to go." And they had already called my mom, and so my mom came and picked me up from school because I was sick. And she said, "What were you thinking? Why did you do this?" And I said, "I didn't." And I lied to my mom. And so she went into the principal's office the next week and defended me. Now, don't do that. That makes me feel even worse. Oh. And they said, "Did you throw this?" I said, "No, I don't, but I know who did." This is like the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life, by the way. All right, you're getting the worst. And they believed me, and I got off scot-free. And I didn't take the punishment that I deserved. Now, your awe is plenty heavy for me. And Mother, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you for defending me and believing me. And I'm sorry that I lied to you. It was so much easier to tell that story when she was online years ago. But if I were punished for that, would it have been just? Yes, absolutely. Right? Whatever that was, that I deserve it. But Jesus is punished for what he does not do. And Jesus is in the tomb, punished for death. And God looks into the grave and declares he is not guilty. He sits on the judgment seat, and God says he is not guilty. And Jesus walks out of the tomb. And this morning, I just want to ask you that question. Who is it? What is it that you're looking for? Who is it? What is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for help? Jesus is. Are you looking for hope? Jesus is. Are you looking for healing? Jesus is. Are you looking for rest? Jesus is. Are you looking for strength? Jesus is. Are you looking for what works? Jesus is. Are you looking for what lasts? Jesus is. Are you looking for help? Jesus is. Are you looking for a fix? Jesus is. Are you looking for a fresh start? Jesus is. Are you looking for a bigger story? Jesus is. Are you looking for something real? Jesus is. Are you looking for someone you can trust? Jesus is. Are you looking for someone who will listen? Jesus is. Are you looking for someone who can hear you? Jesus is. Are you looking for someone stronger? Jesus is. Are you looking for someone who will captivate you? Jesus is. Are you looking for sustenance? Jesus is. Are you looking for a drink? Jesus is. Are you looking for a friend? Jesus is. Are you looking for a lover? Jesus is. Are you looking for a redeemer? Jesus is. Are you looking for a savior? Jesus is. He is everything. And he is right in front of Mary, and she does not recognize that it's Jesus. This morning, whatever it is that you're looking for, Jesus is. And he is standing with outstretched arms, offering life to you and to me.